Bonjour à tous. Good afternoon. Mon nom est Fouane Oyou. Je suis représentante principale du Bureau régional du Québec à la Banque du Canada. It is my great pleasure to MC this event today, jointly with my colleague in Vancouver, Trevor Fraise. Hello, Vancouver. La Banque du Canada est heureuse de vous accueillir à cet événement pan-canadien. Cet événement unique marque l'émission des nouveaux billets de 5 et de 10 $ en polymère, les deux dernières coupures de la série de billets de banque Frontières. It is our pleasure to welcome to the special event the Governor of the Bank of Canada, Stephen Poloz, the Senior Deputy Governor of the Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklem, former Canadian Space Agency astronaut Chris Hadfield, as well as the President and Chief Executive Officer of Via Rail Canada, Marc Laliberté. I also wish to extend a warm welcome to our guests, to all our guests in Vancouver and here in Saint-Hubert. Sans plus tarder, j'aimerais maintenant inviter le gouverneur de la Banque du Canada, M. Stephen Poloz, à débuter officiellement cet événement. I would now like to invite Governor Poloz to officially start this event. Governor.
Merci, Fouane. Je suis ravi d'être ici pour le lancement des derniers billets de la série Frontières. C'est d'aujourd'hui que sont émis les nouveaux billets de 5 et 10 $ en polymère, or as we say in Oshawa, plastic. Ils iront rejoindre dans nos portefeuilles ceux de 20 et de 50 $, et peut-être même un ou deux billets de 100 $. Une des fonctions les plus importantes de la Banque du Canada est la conception et l'émission de billets de banque difficiles à contrefaire. Les Canadiens peuvent ainsi les utiliser en toute confiance. Cette nouvelle série de billets novatrices se classe parmi les plus sûrs au monde. As governor of the bank, I join all my colleagues to express our pride in the Frontiers series. It's aptly named because each banknote pushes the frontiers of security and technological innovation to maintain low counterfeiting levels and ensure that confidence in cash remains strong. Les images qui figurent sur ces billets ont aussi pour thème des frontières. Chacune d'elles témoigne une histoire typiquement canadienne. La coupure de 100 $ nous raconte l'innovation médicale, notamment la découverte de l'insuline et l'invention de stimulateurs cardiaques. Le billet de 50 $ nous montre le Grand Nord et les recherches menées dans l'Arctique. On the $20 bill, the image of the Canadian National Vimy Memorial evokes the valor and sacrifice of Canadian soldiers in military conflicts throughout our history. Now, the banknotes we are issuing today continue this tradition. The new $5 and $10 banknotes tell a story about the frontiers of our country and even our universe. The $5 note highlights Canada's technological achievements that look skyward, our contributions in robotics to the International Space Station program. The $10 note depicts a great feat of engineering from Canada's past, the joining of East and West by rail. This is when the banknote story gets a little personal for me. Now, I grew up hearing stories about George Stephen, whom I'm actually named after. So my great-grandfather was also named George Stephen, but he always talked about his Uncle George, who was his rich Uncle George, who's the George Stephen we talk of today from Mount Stephen Club. He was president of what was then the New Railway Company and was the principal financier of the building of CP Rail. By all accounts, he was a man who shunned the limelight and who said about himself that he had neither the training nor the talents to accomplish anything without hard work. Well, without his hard work, we may not have had the Canadian Pacific Railway. The building of the CPR was years in the making and involved the hard work and sacrifices of thousands. It was a monumental undertaking, a feat of engineering and of nation building. And it's only appropriate now that we hear more about this from our colleagues at the train station in Vancouver. Over to you, Senior Deputy Governor Tiff Macklem.
Well, good afternoon, Governor, and everybody in the Space Center. And good morning to friends and colleagues here at Central Station. A warm welcome to everybody to this event to launch the $5 and the $10 new polymer notes. I am very pleased to be here in beautiful Vancouver. And like the Governor, I'm very proud of these new notes. They are making history. They're a first for Canada and indeed the world. With these notes, Canada is at the forefront. Safer, cheaper, greener. Plus sûr parce que tous les billets sont dotés des mêmes caractéristiques de sécurité. Pensons par exemple aux images holographiques et aux éléments dont certaines sont transparents, qui les rendent difficiles à contrefaire. Si bien que surtout les caissiers, peuvent facilement les vérifier. Nous sommes le premier pays, et à ce jour le seul, dont les billets comportent une image holographique à l'intérieur d'une bande transparente. Ils sont moins chers parce qu'ils durent plus longtemps que les billets en papier. Cela signifie que nous aurons un moins grand nombre de billets à imprimer et à transporter. Cela rend cette série donc plus économique. Et ils sont plus verts, parce qu'au cours de la durée de la vie de la série, il y aura moins de billets produits. Lorsqu'ils seront usés, ces billets sont recyclés et en de nouveaux produits, comme ce pot de fleurs. These are some facts about our new Polymer Bank Notes. Let me also put to rest a few urban myths about our banknotes that have been circulating around. My favorite myth is that these notes smell like maple syrup. They don't. So if you get a note and it doesn't smell like maple syrup, that's a good thing. And you can also be assured that there is no chance that these notes will melt if you leave them on the dashboard of your car. Trust me on this. There is a chance, however, that your car might get broken into, so we're not recommending it. Starting today, the safer, cheaper, greener banknotes will be rolled out across Canada. And over time, they will make their way into everyone's hands. Given the striking imagery on the $10 banknote, it is entirely appropriate we are here on National Railway Day. This day marks the anniversary of the hammering of the last spike into the railway bed at Craigley, British Columbia. That act, 128 years ago today, concluded the construction of the railway system upon which this country is built. We are very lucky to have the last spike with us here today, to my right. Well, it's sort of the last spike. Every spike has a story. In fact, there are 3 spikes. The first got bent when it was hammered in, and so it was removed and it was turned into jewelry. The second spike was removed shortly after it was hammered in to make sure that souvenir hunters didn't grab it. And it was eventually turned into a carving knife. The spike that is here today is truly the last spike because it's the spike that's lasted. It was supposed to be driven in by the Governor General of the time, Lord Lansdowne. But an unforeseen and very Canadian glitch, a snowstorm, prevented Lord Lansdowne from attending the ceremony. So he mounted the spike and sent it to Sir William Van Horn, the CPR executive, who led the project. But to tell us more about Canada's railway, I would like to ask Marc Laliberté, President and CEO of Via Rail, to come to the podium. Over to you, Marc.
Thank you. I'm so pleased to be here today, and on behalf of my colleagues at Via Rail, it is an honor to know that our train, the Canadian, is gracing this new banknote. À compter d'aujourd'hui, chaque fois que les Canadiens utiliseront une coupure de 10 $, ils se rappelleront que l'histoire de leur pays est ponctuée de récits extraordinaires, dont la construction du chemin de fer unissant notre nation constitue la plus impressionnante. Rail transportation was and remains a great innovation, still moving today people at higher speed and carrying goods over vast distances. The completion of the Transcontinental Railway helped to build modern Canada. Not only did it contribute to Canada's economic success, but it also gave Canadians the means to seek new frontiers of their own. We are proud to see the legacy of the Canadian train celebrated on the banknote. It pays tributes to the many who worked so hard to make it happen, from George Stevens to the thousands of workers from around the world, especially China, who sacrificed so much to make this engineering feat a reality. L'écrivain français André Mauroy disait que le monde progresse grâce aux choses impossibles qui ont été réalisées. C'est certainement le cas du chemin de fer. Au nom de Via Rail, j'aimerais vous exprimer ma grande joie de voir que cette réalisation, représentée par cette image emblématique du train Le Canadien, figure sur le nouveau billet de 10 $. We will continue to contribute to innovation in Canada by offering a state-of-the-art experience for travelers. Now we will hear from someone who knows a lot about innovation, not to mention transportation. Former Canadian astronaut and commander of the International Space Station, Chris Hadfield, will now tell us more about the $5 banknote. Chris?
Merci, Marc. Vous avez dit une chose impossible qui est réalisée. C'est absolument la vérité ici avec nous, à l'Agence spatiale canadienne. Et pour moi, à mon part, c'est un honneur aujourd'hui d'être ici pour mise en circulation des nouveaux billets de 5 et de 10 $. Je suis l'un des rares Canadiens à en avoir déjà dans les mains et je suis le seul, je pense, à avoir tenu un billet à la pesanteur déjà à la station spatiale. I am and was extremely proud to represent Canada in space and to have had the opportunity to serve as the commander of the International Space Station. It's an amazing human creation. It follows very much along the invention and the frontier opening path that was laid with the rails of iron across the country. And it's a place now where leading-edge scientific research of all different types is performed and by Canadian businesses, Canadian universities, the Canadian Space Agency, and really the best minds of people all around the world for the benefit of all of us here on the Earth. And personally, in affiliation with all of that, I've had some amazing experiences. A spacewalk, in fact, two, to install Canadarm2, to install Canada's huge robot arm on the International Space Station in 2001. And recently, to celebrate and to talk and to sing even with students from all across Canada and connect with people from all around the world using all of the technology that's available through direct messages and photos and videos. But today, Canadian robotics, as highlighted on the $5 note, is what we're celebrating, and they should be recognized for how critical they were in the assembly and maintenance of the International Space Station. Canadarm2 was used on every single assembly mission, and today it's even working, amongst other tasks, retrieving, visiting commercial spacecraft that come up to the space station, which brings supplies and food and experiments to the astronauts. It's a long tradition of transportation, and all Canadians should be proud of the robotic expertise that we represent in orbit right now. The images of Canadarm2 and Dextre on the $5 banknotes serve as a reminder for all Canadians of the dedication and the hard work of so many people across the Canadian Space Agency and in the space industry across Canada. And the scientists and engineers make designing these incredibly complex and revolutionary robots and getting them into space seem somehow easy. And being involved in it is the real inspiration part. Who knows where such innovation can take us? One of the early aviators, the great French aviator and writer Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, said, and I quote, "A rock pile ceases to be a rock pile the moment a single person contemplates it, bearing with them the image of a cathedral." And what this means to me, and it's the direct inspiration I've seen in the eyes and minds of Canadians across the country, Canadian youth, is that there truly are no limits. There are no frontiers that can contain a creative and innovative thinker. Et je souhaite inspirer les jeunes Canadiens afin qu'ils visent haut. Ce nouveau billet de 5 $ devrait tout autant les inspirer, parce qu'il met en valeur les réalisations du Canada dans l'espace. Il nous rappelle que nos rêves n'ont pas de limite. And sir, back to you, Governor.
Well, thank you very much, Chris and Mark and Tiff. You've all reminded us that our banknotes reflect the people and the society where they're used. Canada is a world leader in using innovation for secure banknotes. Work on this series started 8 years ago in 2005. And it's not that we work really slowly at the Bank of Canada, but that's just how long it takes to reach new frontiers in banknotes using a new polymer material and these state-of-the-art security features. There are now well over 700 million of these notes in circulation. With this series, the bank sets a global benchmark for currency. It's a big change, and we're working closely with the cash handling industry, including financial institutions and retail associations, to finalize the transition from paper to polymer and to make sure that it's a smooth one. Now, we're very proud of this technical achievement, of course, but I have to say, it's not rocket science. Well, I had to say that because of where we are. Et même si nous sommes très fiers de ces billets, nous ne restons pas les bras croisés, car la technologie et la contrefaçon évoluent constamment. Et vous pouvez compter sur la Banque du Canada pour continuer d'innover et d'exploiter des nouvelles techniques afin de déjouer les faussaires. Well, folks, it's time to wrap up. I do want to thank you very much. I want to thank our special guests and to all of you here in Saint-Hubert and in Vancouver for joining us today. I now turn it over to Trevor in Vancouver.
Thank you very much, Governor. It's been a pleasure to co-MC this event this morning in this very fitting venue, the beautiful Pacific Central Station in Vancouver, and the final stop on the Canadian train's voyage from Toronto. I would like to thank our speakers today, Governor Poloz, Senior Deputy Governor Macklem, Mr. Chris Hadfield, and Mr. Marc Laliberté. I would also like to thank Via Rail Canada and the Canadian Space Agency for allowing us to come to these great locations today. This concludes our joint event. I know Fuan will be asking media to assemble for a photo opportunity. I will be doing the same in Vancouver momentarily. So now it's time to say merci Et au revoir, Saint-Hubert.
Goodbye, Vancouver. J'aimerais maintenant inviter le gouverneur